Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chapter 1 and Week 1 of Macroeconomics. I am really excited to get our course started and start it off right. Before we get into the material and the lecture this week, there's a few administrative items I wanted to go through. First of all, if this is the first video you are watching, I would encourage you to exit out of this video and get right into Module 0, which is the course orientation. Within that course orientation, you'll find information in regard to navigation of the course, an introduction of myself, and two very important discussions that you'll start our course off with. The first one is an opportunity to introduce yourself to your peers, and the second one is setting a standard of success. It's really important that you get both of these discussions completed, as number one, it shows me your intent and interest in the course, and number two, it is 20 free points which will go toward your homework. And homework represents 50% of your grade in the course. Let's talk about our text for this course that we'll be following. It is Economics Today, the macro view. Primarily, we'll be using the 19th edition. However, if you get the 20th edition for free as part of your tuition, go ahead and get that 20th edition. I've looked over the chapters and the materials. It's essentially identical to the 19th edition. If you're not in that group, then I'd encourage you to get the 19th edition simply because it's cheaper. With those administrative items out of the way, let's talk economics. And no economics course starts complete without a definition of economics. The text is going to define it as the study of how people allocate their limited resources to satisfy their unlimited wants. I'm going to simplify that definition even a little bit more. Economics is the study of scarcity. Like the text says, you and I have unlimited wants. I'd love to have a summer house out in Bear Lake. Something up in the mountains would be lovely. Something in Park City would be fun during Sundance. And when winter rolls around, it would be great to have a home in St. George. But as an economist, as an adjunct economics teacher at Salt Lake Community College, I have very, very limited resources. What the study and the science of economics does is it gives me solutions to take my limited resources and my unlimited wants and allocate them in a way that will maximize my happiness. There are two main lenses of economics. The first one is microeconomics, and microeconomics takes a view or a lens of economics from the viewpoint of an individual or a firm. Macroeconomics, by contrast, is an aggregate study or an aggregate science where we take all of these different individuals and all of these different firms and aggregate them into one economy. And typically in this course, when we're talking about a macroeconomy, we're talking about a country. However, macroeconomics can be applied to any group where we're aggregating all of these firms, all of these industries into one big macroeconomy. So it can apply to a state or a county as well as a country. There are three main questions that macroeconomics answers. The first is what and how much of a good or service we should produce. Number two is what specific items we should produce within our economy. And number three is who will receive those items. The text is going to go through three different solutions or 3 different economic systems to answer these 3 big economic questions. The first answer is a command and control economy. Now, when we think about a command and control economy, the main element we want to focus on is there's some sort of central decision maker making all of the choices of what to produce, how to produce it, and whom receives it for our economy. This central figurehead could be a king, it could be some sort of central government, it could be some sort of group of laborers who produce that good. But the main focus is it's not all of the people as a whole making these decisions, it's some sort of central figure making the decisions within a command and control economy. The second one is a price system. And within a price system, we have an open and free market in which all of the individuals collectively decide through supply and demand the price and quantity of individual goods that they decide. The third system that we go over, and the most common system by far, is a mixed economic system. And as the name suggests, some goods and industries are determined by command and control or a centralized government head, and some goods are determined by the price system, where the market as a whole decides the price and quantity of a given good. Which system best describes the United States? Well, that would be a mixed economic system. We have certain goods and services within our economy which are determined by our government, such things as our utility companies or perhaps our garbage services that come and pick up our trash every week. And we have some goods and services which are determined by the supply and demand of the market. These are things like consumer goods, like our telephones and our TVs. Now, in economics, in general, we use a lot of models. And you can kind of think of an economic model as a framework that helps you make decisions. And each of these models come with assumptions attached to them. I had a mentor that always used to tell us that no economic model is perfect. Some of them are useful. And what he meant by that is all of the assumptions that make up these models will never be met with perfectness. However, if we're able to match these economic models closely to the actual situation, we can find these models really, really useful in providing us that framework to help us make economic decisions, either for ourselves or our firm in a microeconomic situation, or collectively, if we're aggregating all of those individuals and firms, taking economic models to a macroeconomic situation. The first two assumptions that the book is going to go through is rationality. Rationality is the assumption that individuals and firms act in their best interest. So they're going to make decisions that make them better off. The second is that people respond to incentives. And these incentives that we can respond to aren't only positive incentives that make us better off, and we pursue those incentives, but also that we react to negative incentives that we typically will go away from. So those first two assumptions are the rationality assumption and the incentive assumption. And I know what you're thinking, gee, I can already think of examples where individuals don't act rationally or do not react properly to incentives. That goes back to what my mentor says. No models are perfect, some are useful. The majority of individuals in the majority of situations will react properly to the rationality assumption and will react properly to the incentive situation. When these assumptions aren't met, us as economists will look at that situation and adjust our models to the reality that we're living in. The last concept that we're going to cover within Chapter 1 is the idea of normative and positive economics. And I'm not going to go into this too much, primarily because we have a discussion where we go over some examples of normative and positive economics here in the coming weeks. However, I will say that normative economics is dependent on value statements. It's viewed as things as they ought to be. Positive economics, by contrast, is backed up by economic theory or math. It looks at things as they are. That is a quick overview of our material in Chapter 1. And that's what I intend these lectures to be. I'm not going to go over every little minute detail within the chapter or even every concept within the chapter. It is absolutely your responsibility to read through these chapters. You can think of these lectures more as something to complement the text. If I add material within my lectures, the added material will not be on your homeworks, they won't be on your unit exams, they will not be on your final exams. However, if I miss something within the book, that material may be on your homework, it may be on your unit exams and final exams, and I absolutely will not be going through every single detail within the book. So make sure you're spending your focus and your time on reading the material from the book and using these lectures as a complement to that material. The order I typically like to go in is perhaps watch the lectures first, get a good introduction of the material, and then solidify that knowledge by reading through the text. With all of that out of the way, as always, I hope if you have any questions, you'll direct those my way, and we will talk soon. Thanks.